Welcome to the fish tank.
Hey everybody, Fishman here, and welcome to part 2 of the big pond renovation. This is going to be probably the bulk of the work being finished at the end of this, and all I really need to do after this is replant everything and get all the rocks in the right places, and there's more rock to come and some more driftwood and stuff like that. But this is going to be the bulk of the cleaning. So this is 8-9 days into this now. Most of the work I do on like Friday, Saturday, Sunday, because the staff don't want to have to put up with any kind of algae smells and fish smells and all that sort of stuff. So this is the flashing. I didn't want to do this on site because, well, it's very hard to do, and it needed to be sanded down and resurfaced, and there's a few spots on it still, but this is something that's going to only be viewed from about 25 feet away. So it doesn't really have to be perfect. And of course I didn't bother doing any of the inside of it because it'll never get seen. So this is Saturday morning. This is after I've done all the stuff that you saw in the first video. And I actually had to come pretty much every day because the fish are in that big barrel, and I had to do water changes on them and stuff like that, and also did small work that didn't involve stirring any of this up because again, smell. Actually, for me, it doesn't smell bad at all. It just smells like anyone's fish room. But then again, like I said, certain people don't like that sort of smell, and I had to keep it as human friendly as possible. So this is settled out now nicely. It's been, like I said, I haven't done any raking in this for a week, and it's actually exactly where I want it to be because I'm going to not disturb the pond itself because I want all that stuff that's settled in there to stay that way. And then I'm going to re-rake the upper pond here and get all that stuff stirred up, and it will obviously pour into the main pond. And then I'm going to turn off that water, the pump that pumps this water up into here to the waterfalls. It's still running right now. And once that the fresher water, I should say, from the main pond comes up in here and flushes all this stuff out, I'll turn off the big pump, and then I'll do the first of the big drains. I have to completely drain this out, and then I have to pressure wash it. Well, you'll see as we go along. It has to be done a few times. I have to get this as clean as possible. Like I said, it's been 20 years plus of gathering mulm, and it has to be all cleaned out. So now I've let that flush for a little bit, and you can see this is all the water. This is the water that simply came from the upper pond. So this is the extra bit of dirt. And I haven't stirred up the bottom yet at all of the main pond. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to open up the main valve, the drain for the main pond to drain. And then I'm going to get in here with a floor squeegee, and I'm going to, just stir this all up and let it drain. The problem with it, this part actually took longer than I thought because I had to keep hopping over the bridge and getting to the other side of this and unplugging the main drain. I couldn't take the screen off because I didn't want any large plant roots or leaves or twigs or anything to end up down the drain and plug the whole drain. So I had to keep going and cleaning the screen intake, and this actually took, like I said, the first time I had to do this, it took a few hours. So it's almost down to nothing, and it's just got enough, it's pretty much just sludge at the bottom now, and I'm going to go through again with the floor squeegee and head that all towards the drain. This part didn't really take too long, but it all had to go. You can't have this in the bottom like this, and you can see how it's not all water. It's quite thick, and once I get this all done out, I will. This floor squeegee was actually really kind of useful, but I had to get it all out, so I had to actually resort to using my big shop vac, which is actually one of my favorite tools for these sorts of things because it just gets rid of everything. And you're going to see a little later on in this, I'm going to go it took a long time to do this, and while it was doing some of the draining, I did other work. So it's not all going to go like chronological as we go through this. You're going to see bits and pieces that are going to be done earlier, and then of course later, and it'll flip back and forth a bit. But it should all make sense as you see it happen, because, like I said, this took a while to have it drain, especially when it got down near to the last little bit, because I mean, it's just going up by gravity, so it gets to the point where it slows down considerably. So I kept squeegeeing it towards the drain, unplugging the drain, and besides taking forever, it was not really that hard. So that was actually kind of like, for me, it was kind of a break, because the actual scrubbing of the tiles, that was actually really hard on your fingers, because you have to put a fair amount of force on it. One of the comments I got on the part one was why I didn't take the steel wool that I'm using and put it onto some form of power tool and use that. These tiles are really quite old. The grout's been there for quite some time, and also I didn't really want to risk any kind of extra scratching. I mean, they're ceramic tiles, so it can take quite a bit, but one of the instructions I had, or requests I had for this, was to make it look as nice as possible and as shiny as possible, so I didn't want too many extra scratches. Here we go. This is all drained down, and it's ready to pressure wash. You can see it's, all the sludge is gone, which is really important, and you can also see a little bit of it's just actually a bit of dirt that came out when I was doing the overflow. That part has actually been cleaned already, and I'll have to obviously pressure wash that again. So some of this ended up having to repeat certain steps quite often, and this side hasn't been done at all yet. So next step is to pressure wash this all out. But you can see from when I came this morning, you can see how this is actually a lot cleaner already. And this is just step one for this. It's going to have to be done again, obviously. So yeah, now the pressure washing. It certainly earned its its keep, I tell you. I used it quite a bit, and I would only run it for about an hour at a time, and then of course I'd let it cool off, and I would do other work. And that's another part of why I'm saying, like, this is kind of piecemeal on how it's getting cleaned. I kept going from job to job and going back and starting all over again, simply just so I wouldn't burn out anything, and again, of course, to give my fingers a rest. And as you can see, I have to go over each and every one of those, the grout lines. I mean, back and forth. I had to do them all. It took quite a while. But it ended up turning out pretty good, which is all that really matters in the end. And once this part's done, we'll go back and I'll show you how I got rid of all the rest of the stuff. So here it is. You'll still see as I go around, there's like right here and one or two other spots, there are some stains on here that just wouldn't come out. So I am going to work on them with a little bit of acid, but it's not something that's actually really going to be an issue. I can always just put some sort of pot or something in there later on. But for the most part, it came out quite clean, or certainly a lot cleaner than it was. And this is pretty much, the internal pond part, this part right here, is not something I was too concerned about, because it will eventually, of course, once it's filled with water, it will regrow algae, and there's only so much cleaning you can do to it once it's filled with water. So you can see this water in the pond is really dirty. This is obviously one of the steps further back. And what I do is I would take the solvent that I've been using, and I would initially spritz all the calcium deposits, let that sit for a few minutes, go do something else, come back. And this is the main process here I had for cleaning this whole thing. Once it's sat for a few minutes, I would put gloves on, and I would use a putty knife and scrape off the bigger buildup parts. And this has been pressure washed, I think, 3 times at this point. And then I would scrape that all down. Once it was scraped down reasonably, I would go in there with steel wool, and I would again spritz it with a bit more, try and get rid of all the calcium as possible. And this is kind of like a bits and pieces sort of thing. I would do it like this, And then the next clip will be, I'm going to pressure wash all this. It has to be pressure washed. I mean, it's the only way to get rid of excess materials. And what I would do then is I would let it dry. And as anyone who's cleaned any kind of aquarium or aquarium glass or anything else in a fish room, the crux of it, especially once it's dry, you'll see if there's any salt stains or there's any calcium stains or any spots you missed. It will show up better once it's dry. So that's what I had to do. Is that I would go start at one end, do this, move on to the next section, and then let this dry, and then come back and rinse and repeat. So this is Sunday now. As you can see, I managed to get all the way around this. I don't remember how many times I ended up doing it. After a point in time, you just get tired enough that you just don't really worry about it. You just do the job and wait till it's all done. And the other thing I almost forgot to do was, these are two stainless steel rungs that go around the pond. I cleaned that one, and I still have this one to do. As you can see, it from the pond itself, it splashes along. This calcium gradually builds up over time. And that needs to be still done. And of course, all those plants need to be pruned way back. The ones that are in the outside of the pond now, all the arrowleaf. And I'm not going to get to the replanting of this in this video. That's going to be for a later time. And as you can see in the back wall, like I said, this is early Sunday. I haven't done that part yet either. There's still lots of little touch-ups I need to do here. But I got the pond running, I got it filled up, and now I'm going to do the final bits, which is I need to replace all the plumbing for the water wall. You can see as we get closer there, it's still got the old calcified hoses on it. That all has to come off. You can see the back wall there still needs to be cleaned up a little bit more. And that stainless steel flashing that's on the side for the wall to protect it from the splashing of the water wall needs to be done. As you can see, though, the gravel's a lot cleaner now. And there's one other thing I'm going to probably show you when I do the update, but I'm not going to show you in this. Is another way of cleaning it, which is kind of cool. And as you can see, I still have to do all the plumbing for that and also install all the flashing. And there's one thing I can't do is that little access door there. I'm not sure what metal it's made out of, but it wasn't cleanable. I'll have to get them to either sand it down and paint it themselves or give me the materials to do that later. But this is Sunday. It's like 90% done at this point, really. You saw that little T thing that was sitting in the well over there. There's a valve down there to undo the pond, like to undo let the water out, and I had to leave that in there. It was the only way I could reach that thing. And this is the end of Sunday. Everything's been cleaned. You'll see the water is a little murky at the moment. That's simply because I had to get back in to do some work on that back end and stir up a bit of the pond. But the filter will take that out, no problem at all. And there's just absolutely no way of removing all of the dirt from this style of filter. But the nice thing is it's 80 to 90% cleaner now. And once it starts to circulate a little bit, it'll clean that out in no time at all. And you can see the fish are back in, which is really kind of cool. And this is pretty much the end of the bulk of this. You can see the new hoses are on for the water wall. And the flashing's back. The new flashing's back on. And you can see that it doesn't really show up the few little spots that are on it. And it's like I said, it's 90% done plus a bit. I still have to do all the planting, of course, but I can't do that until I have the go-ahead that this is clean enough. And then once I have that, I'll do all the replanting, and I'll do an update on this in the future. Once all the arrow leaf starts to grow. And there's a lot more plants I want to put in this, but I still have to, again, get okay for that. And a few other details. So I'm going to show you the last clip here. Is this going to be the before? I was going to do a side-by-side, but this is already getting way too long, so I thought I'd just show you a little bit of this. And this is what it looked at like before with all the calcium, the lack of flow. And anyway, it's just I wanted to show you just so refresh your memory for what had happened, what I did to this thing. So anyway, if you like this style of video, please like and or subscribe. That would be greatly appreciated. And I will be getting back now to the regular stuff. I need to get working on the rolling drum filter. I actually did some work on that earlier in the week. Before this is going to go up for Wednesday, so during Monday to Wednesday, I did a bit of work on that, and that'll be up. And then we'll get back to, like I said, all the regular stuff. And those of you who are interested in this, there will be at least a short update on this, as I want to make this look obviously a lot more finished as far as the replanting and all that sort of stuff. But I can't do that until I get the go ahead. So it was not done in time for Wednesday's video, so it'll have to be done at a later date. Also, I want to let the arrow leaf grow back, so that's going to take a bit of time as well. So thank you very much for watching. I'll see you in the next video, and bye for now.